Welcome to another episode of Women in Focus. Our woman in focus today is a towering figure in the field of real estate. Her name is Shannon Mann, and she is our woman in focus today. Shannon, you're most welcome in our program. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic because I am in such a great company.
I am seeing you in a totally different avatar,
Yes.
and that is real estate. So how did you get interested in real estate?
Well, it happened very organically. My husband and I have built and sold a few homes.
I see.
We've done a renovation job. We did a total build from scratch and then sold, and have always worked with Team McKnight, and they are one of the top sales teams in all of British Columbia.
Right.
And have a really good relationship with them and with my real estate agent. And they saw, especially during COVID, I
Right.
sold my house and it was beautifully decorated, had an interior designer. It was an artful place.
Right.
And when I started representing the house on social, they'd never seen engagement like that. And the calls to come see it.
Okay.
So I kind of had a natural knack for, describing a house. And I always actually do sort of fall in love and find beauty in everything, whether it's like a person, a bride, when I was in hair and makeup, or a home.
Yes.
There's always something exceptional about. And I very romanticize my life quite a bit, and I love stories and very emotional. So that I think comes through when I was showing the house. And then during COVID, there was a break, and the wedding industry came to a complete
Yes.
halt, right? So we're talking, no one was getting ready, no one was going anywhere. All the weddings had stopped for 2 years. And so it really gave me a chance to kind of slow down and spend time with my family. I realized I was working way too much. I wanted to spend more time with my kids. I had a really good knack for this real estate thing. So I had wanted to do it for years. I couldn't because I'd be booked 2 years in advance. So there was no chance to study. So finally, actually my husband and I said, let's do this together. We both got the books from UBC and started studying. It's a tough licensing program.
No kidding.
It's very hard. Got my license, but before I did that, I had a conversation with the team, and I said, hey, do you think, with Louise McKnight, who is the team leader, and I said, Louise, do you think I would be good at this? And she said, absolutely. If you get your license and you want to put in the work, we have a position for you. And this is a coveted job that I think thousands of agents would want. And it was offered to me before I had completed the education, so I felt very lucky. Went to school, aced the course, and basically left the hair and makeup industry to put all my eggs in this basket and get into real estate.
It was the best decision you made?
I think so too. I'm really happy at the job.
So, a couple of things in real estate. Like you talked about, you look at a place, you think about it, and you dramatize it.
Yes.
And then you sell it. Obviously, the knack of being able to do that is what people liked.
Exactly. And I've done that on social media too, with like branding and marketing. That's what I went to school for.
Right.
So, and even being able to see the beauty of something, if somebody can't see it, little changes they could make to the home, little suggestions, and you're telling a story, really. And any sales job, you're telling a story. And I have a background in luxury sales before. In college, I worked at Henry Burks and Sons,
Okay.
and fell in love with jewelry.
Right.
And then I guess like buying and selling real estate, I fell in love with real estate and home design. So it's a very kind of natural, organic progression to get to where I am now. And I do think that real estate, you do need an agent. You really need to sell the house.
You need to be creative.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that you and your husband got involved, and so would you be looking at the interior of the house or also the exterior, or was it how to set the house so that people could see, accentuate some area, and how do you
think it goes, when you're selling a home, you need to look at the school catchments, you need to look at the sort of street appeal, the neighborhood, the community, what the community features are, the schools that are nearby, any rec centers. It's like you're selling a lifestyle. When someone's buying a home, that's where they're going to live their lives. They need to be able to appreciate all those things. So when you are showing a house, you're not just showing the charkanda and windows. You're really saying, well, this school here, these are the programs for your kids. And I think there's a huge South Asian community, and I'm fluent in Punjabi too, so I like to be able to communicate. So if I have like a Desi realtor comes to the door, the showing is in Punjabi. If it's an English person, then the tour is in English.
Right. So when you get a listing And from the time that you get the listing to the time that the house is sold,
Yes.
how much time do you think gets?
That all depends. Okay.
So
So
depends on what?
pricing.
Okay.
So if you price it too high in the market, then because people are always looking at comparables. So let's say you're
Yeah.
my buyer,
Right.
right? Shushmaji brings me a list of 5 homes.
Right.
I'm going to look at the homes that are similar that have sold
Yeah.
to give us an idea of what the prices we're looking for.
Ah.
And then you always do get some people that maybe are, they say, well, 2 years ago during the peak in COVID, my neighbor sold it for this much. So again, I want to put it on for this amount of
Right,
money.
right.
But then at that point, the market may have come down. So if you price it too high, it's going to take longer to sell.
Right.
If you price it more aggressively, what I call it, then you're going to get more offers. Usually, I think homes that are priced properly for the market, those will get picked up usually within 30 days. But I think because we're in this kind of purgatory between like peak time and now prices have come down, reconciling those two of trying to bring your seller expectations and what the buyers are willing to offer, meeting halfway, that has been a point of negotiating. And
Also the interest rate.
oh yes, and people, that's where a lot of the deals are
Yeah,
falling apart because the
right.
banks are not appraising. Banks are tighter with giving the money to buyers, and if they don't see, this happened during the peak too, and it's still happening now, where the bank's not willing to, because the bank owns the house,
Right.
right? So
Of
they're
course.
they're giving you the loan against the value. If they
Right.
don't see the value you're paying for it, you're not getting the loan, and then you do all this work, get the parties to agree, and now the bank's not coming on board, and then deals aren't coming
And
apart.
I want to talk to you about you talked about your husband and you getting into it. So
Mm-hmm.
so there seems to be a good chemistry between the both of you. So let's take a short commercial break and come back and talk
Okay,
about that.
sounds good.
Shannon is our woman in focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Shannon Mann is our woman in focus today. So we were talking about the houses being sold, stress test, and interest rates, they go up, they come down. I remember the time when interest rates were at 19%.
Yes.
And then I remember the time when they were at 0. I mean, 2%.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
And a long time ago I think I'm a lot older than people do think I am, because a lot of people on social media who follow me are between 19 and 35. I'm
Yes.
turning 48 this year. So I've seen more than they have, and people are like, "Oh my God, it's the interest rate's so high." My parents actually had lost a farm back in the 80s when
Wow.
interest rates had hit
Went,
that point.
yeah.
We couldn't hold the property anymore.
No.
So a lot of people lost their
Yeah.
lost their investments. Hopefully we
Yes.
never get to that kind of place again.
I hope not. I hope not. You were talking about you and your husband getting into it. So how did you meet this guy?
So my husband and I are complete opposites.
Oh, very good. Opposites always attract.
Yeah. So, I'm somebody who's very out there in social media, and I've, like to make connections with
Yes.
people, and he has we're like Desi and Lucy. It's so funny. I will introduce him to someone, like he would recognize you.
Yes.
Other than that, I introduce him to people. He's got no idea, doesn't care, not on social.
No.
He likes rock music. I am more into like R&B and hip hop.
Right.
He's definitely more an academic. I'm definitely more kind of arts and culture and like more emotional.
Right.
Like to give you an example, when we were dating, when you're really in love when you first start dating,
Yeah.
I had asked him a really stupid question. Now I look back at it, but it was like he gave me a realist answer, and I said in one of those moments, like, "What would you do if we had never met?" And he looked at me straight in the face, Shushmaji, and said, "I would have just met somebody else." And I'm like, that could be.
And you were
know?
expecting, oh, I don't know what my life would have been. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
have been waiting and looking for you.
Yeah. I was like waiting for the lyrics, like waiting for a girl like you. Like, give me something. This is not the person to do that. So I wanted to do the course with him because I
Yes.
wanted us to do something together, because we are very, very much opposites. He's a pharmacist by
Oh, I
trade.
see.
So
I
he's
see.
doing that. He's not interested in real estate at all.
Right.
We just did the course as something because I wanted something to do it together. But the actual true story of how we met, I was at a bar, and I had noticed him, and he was with a very multicultural group of
Right.
people, and I really
Okay.
liked that, and I thought he was very handsome too.
Right.
And he would make eyes at me, and he would look away.
Right.
And I noticed him doing that like 6 or 7 times. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to kind of make the eye contact back to smile, but
Yes.
he won't even meet my gaze.
He was just
He was just too shy. Yeah, and very, like not very social.
right.
So after about 6 or 7 times, my girlfriend, who I was there with, had dated one of his friends, his friend Jeff, and she said, I know Pinder, he's a really nice guy. Just go say hello, nothing's gonna happen. Like, just you have to be the one. He's not gonna come up to you and talk to you.
Oh, I see. So
And
you did that.
And I said, and I say this to my kids too,
Yeah.
because it's the one time that I was like, okay, fine. And I went up to him, and he was turned around, and there was a terrible song on. I tapped on his shoulder, and I said, excuse me, and he turned around, he's shocked to see me. I said, when a good song comes on, would you like to dance? And he's the world's worst dancer. I can say, you know, that would have been a deal breaker if we had actually danced. So then I turned around, and I was kind of embarrassed. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And I went back to my girlfriend's, and she's like, stop talking, he's right behind you. And he's been really right behind me like ever since.
So he wanted to dance with you.
He did.
Aw.
But we don't dance much because
No.
he has 2 left feet.
Yeah.
You know, and I say this too when it comes to real estate as well. You know, like Seema Auntie from
Yes,
matchmaking,
yes.
You can't have everything. You must compromise. Dancing was one of those things that I love to dance, but I had to compromise. I'm like, okay, you're not going to find everybody like that person who has everything. You're going to find things that you love about them, and of course
Right.
things. And I'm sure there's things about me that he finds annoying too. I'm sure there are. So it's just finding that person that you can balance with. And I think the main thing that I found most attractive about him is that he's very respectful, and he treats me like an equal, which I think is very important. Because I had a rather traumatic childhood,
Right.
and so and I'm the only one out of my siblings that actually married a Punjabi man
Oh, I see.
because it was so traumatic. Everybody else was just like, nah, Baba, I'm done. I can't go down this because we had such a bad example at home. So yeah, it's a good balance. And I always tell that story to my kids, and I say, if you don't take that risk, you'll never have that answered. I don't want you to be shy. If you want to say something, say it in the moment, because you only have one chance at this life. So even though I'm the one who, you know, made the first move, family.
But that was the right move that you made, right?
It was. And it kind of shows you the kind of person I am too, you know, like I will, and I think that there are a lot of South Asian women that come from homes where there is a lot of like patriarchy and abuse, and kind of come stronger out of it because they're like, I do not want this as my life. So I'm going to do
Yeah.
everything I can to build myself up to not let this happen to me. I think I'm one of those girls.
Talked a little bit about your family. I mean, you said not a very good, you know, childhood.
Yeah.
So what was wrong with that? Are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, my dad has passed away now for a few years ago, and he was an alcoholic and probably had some undiagnosed mental conditions. He was very, very abusive.
Ah.
So very controlling, very abusive, and we didn't go to family weddings. He didn't want my mom conversing with anyone, talking on the phone. He would be very paranoid all the time, and yeah, physically very abusive, and then a lot of alcoholism. Yeah, it was hard.
That's a difficult thing for a child to witness,
Of course.
especially, and then, you know, make up your mind as to what you want in life.
Yeah, because either two things happen,
Yeah.
I think. You either find somebody who's like that,
Yeah.
which you see a lot in our Punjabi culture, and where that's normalized, where you realize, oh, well, men do this. Men beat you. Men are controlling. Men control your finances. Men drink a lot. This is normal behavior. So you see that happen. Or the opposite, where you as a woman, you're like, I never want to have this in my life, and you take all of the you know, you try to do what you can to avoid that. And I think that's one of the things that I found really attractive about my husband too, is in his family, his parents are very respectful to one another. I never heard them argue. I never heard them raise their voice. It was actually the polar opposite of what my childhood was like. And then I realized, like, there are families out there where it's healthy. And I think in the wedding industry, being in the wedding industry kind of healed me too, because I got to see so many family dynamics, healthy
Right.
family dynamics.
Yeah.
And now being a mom myself, I was able to let go of all of that and then build kind of a happy, balanced, stable home for our kids.
Beautiful. I want to talk about your kids and a little bit about how you see yourself in the next little while. Let's take a short break and come back.
Sounds good?
Shannon is our woman in focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Women in Focus. Shannon Mann is our woman in focus today. So Shannon, talking about life and how life happens, you did say that your husband and you are total opposites to each other. And you said you married out of caste. What does that mean? But you're a Punjabi, he's a Punjabi, you're both Punjabis.
So I'm Jat.
Ah.
Yeah, and he's Darkhan.
Oh, even in that area there is.
Yep. They're all my dad was more understanding, and but my mom was not, which I found really surprising because she was the brunt of the abuse.
Right.
But I find that there's a lot of women that will indoctrinate that abuse and trauma they've been through and still subject other women to it. And there was a conversation that I had with my mom, I won't forget, before I got married. And she tried to stop the wedding. And my dad wasn't so much the one protesting, but my mom. And I asked her, and I said, would you rather have me marry somebody like dad, Jada Kotadaya, and berates me all the time, but he's Jat? And she said yes.
No kidding.
That was my first question to her.
Okay.
That's when I realized I needed to put some distance in that relationship. It wasn't a healthy relationship.
No.
Especially now as a mother looking back, I'm like, wow, that's like a red flag. And the second point I said to her too, because I understand the caste system.
Yes.
Where it was in place so that socioeconomically, if your daughter used to a certain lifestyle, you were going to marry into a family that was going to give you the same lifestyle.
That's right.
Like
Yes.
you want your kids to be comfortable.
Right.
And I think socially you see that happen in Western culture as
Right.
well, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll give you that, Mom. But my in-laws had a blueberry farm, and my dad was a motor vehicle inspector. So he's doing more of the trade work. So I said to her, so if you are talking about like money and caste, and he's a university educated, he's a pharmacist, I'm like, Oni bane jat hoon, asi nahi dikhan. Oh, my mom did not like that comment.
No.
But it's true. If these are the rules that you're adhering to, let's break it down to why.
Why were these rules made, first of all?
And if those rules don't apply in this case, you're still just going to be because log ki kehnage.
Yeah.
Like I learned a long time ago, log are not the people that are going to help you sleep at night, pay your bills.
No.
You really have to live true to your own values and what makes you happy. So at that point, I had packed my stuff and I had left home.
Wow, very smart and very bold, I would say, for a South Asian young woman, because parents do, Indian parents do control their kids a lot.
Yeah.
Emotionally,
financially,
and every other way,
Very true. And I understand if it comes from a place of like love.
Yes.
But like, and I think we're doing the total opposite with our kids.
Yes.
Where I've told them you can date whatever you want. There's no cultural restriction. You can live wherever you want, travel wherever you want, experience whatever you want. You could be LGBTQ, anyone on the spectrum. I love you. I'm going, literally felt like breaking thousands of years of intergenerational trauma and being like, little chitty, fly. You can do whatever you want. But my son has a girlfriend now, and the families have like met each other. She's full Punjabi.
Right.
And I said to him too, when I was a kid, I would have, loved for a chance to date out of the culture.
Right.
But he found the most in common with her.
Beautiful.
And came back to that same place. And so, he's happy and they have lots in common, and it's a very young relationship. He's only 18, but I love seeing it. And it's a healthy relationship. I'm like, this is what it should look like.
Yeah.
This is what our culture should look like and what
Well,
kids in love look like.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, people need to really kind of knock on their
They
heads.
need to ask those questions, the 5
Yeah, and I
Ws.
think Turkana is like construction.
Yes.
So, like, aren't developers like the most wealthy in
that's
British
right.
Columbia?
And they are all Khans.
So that's kind of justice, I think, in some ways. Yeah.
To a certain extent. So you have 2 kids?
2 kids.
Yeah.
2 boys. We were married for about 5 years. We had our first one, and then we did hit infertility, which a lot of couples are dealing with.
Right.
And our second one, it was through in vitro.
Right.
Yeah, and so, they're 7 years apart. But now I've been very emotional and on social media too, having some teary moments about my son graduating this year, high school.
Oh, lovely.
And he's getting accepted to all the universities he's applying to.
Beautiful.
So we're really proud, but I'm so glad that I have my 10-year-old at home.
Right.
Because I just adore him all the time. We just cuddle, we watch TV together. Like, he's my best friend. And he actually started, a really good sport like he loves kind of being on social media, and he's very kind of a happy-go-lucky personality. So
Right.
we've actually started doing some reels together that have gone viral
Oh, very
about real
nice.
estate.
Yes.
And so he's just like this little realtor who comes to and says some fun things. So yeah, we're having some fun.
Oh, that's good. And I think to a certain extent, social media has been a boon for many people, and maybe, you know, for the younger generation, some of them, not that good for them.
No,
But
I
if
think
you
it's
use it
been-
properly, it's good.
It can be, but I do think like, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword. I think it's because of my social media following that I was afforded the job that I have. Because I
Right.
have this network
Yes.
that draws in potential clients.
Right.
But at the same time, it breaks my heart that it is a source of, and I remember being a kid, you know, when we were growing up and seeing media and seeing these supermodels and airbrushed, it's that times 100. You're seeing unrealistic depictions of what beauty looks like. There's ageism. People are so mean and heartless on their comments on
Yes.
social media.
Oh, yes.
Like people have lost their humanity.
Yes.
And it is a horrible place, and I think it can be really, really dark, and it's
Yeah.
becoming really, really dark. And you
Yeah.
have to protect your kids from spending too much time on there, because really, and that's one thing I've realized in real estate too, the most successful people that I know are not on social media.
Really.
They're private,
Yes.
and they don't have time for any of this stuff.
No. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
So things are changing at home with Chandon leaving
Right.
leaving the house, and I say Chandon because I feel like Gore say Chandon, but Punjabi say Chandan. So sometimes our friends are confused. They're like, which one is it?
Yes.
But Chandan leaving home. Our family's changing a little bit, so I'll have more time to devote to real estate. So I
Yes.
see that part of my career growing. Pinder and I are settled into like a great neighborhood. We're really happy where we are, and feel really kind of at
Did you
peace.
build that house for yourself?
We actually ended up purchasing a little bit of a larger lot. So the Desi thing, you know, it's always about like Jameen. And we took a rancher that was really sadly neglected. We
Yes.
completely renovated it.
Okay.
So it's we had a beautiful design team and building team, and it's gorgeous.
Oh,
and
lovely.
it's in a really beautiful, quiet neighborhood. So lots of trails
Right.
and birds in the morning. I have no neighbors
Lovely.
behind me. It's very, very peaceful.
That's
and
lovely.
it's perfect for the stage of life. Like my husband's turning 50 this November. So we're in a good place for this next chapter of our lives.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for being a woman in focus today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Shannon Mann has been our woman in focus today. Don't go away. We'll be right back.